Hello everyone, it's Jayden for Student Pages. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent once again. Welcome back to another interview. Today we are joined by the incredible Sophie Aldred. How's it going?
Great, thank you. Sunny day, daffodils in the garden. What could be nicer?
I know, right? I was just saying before we started, it's like the weather is absolutely ridiculous for the UK at the minute. But yeah, so you've been playing Ace in the Hooniverse for almost 40 years now. That is an incredible achievement. Crazy to think about as well. So how do you feel about the role in general to get us kicked off? Are there any sort of similarities between yourself and Ace?
Well, it's the role of a lifetime, put it that way. And it really is the role of a lifetime because I was 24 when I got the role and now it's 40, nearly 40 years on. And I've been playing her consistently throughout that time on screen, but also on audio, and then back on screen with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. So yeah, I think there are similarities, obviously. And somebody asked me recently at a convention, how much of you is Ace and how much of Ace is now you? That's an impossible question to answer because I know Ace has certainly given me over the years a lot of confidence, that's for sure. Because when I first started doing Doctor Who, I was a little bit shy and didn't have so much confidence. And I think I have stolen some of that boldness and confidence from Ace. And then perhaps she's stolen a bit of the more kind of touchy-feely emotional side of life from me. I don't know.
Mm. No, we definitely see that, especially, upon your many returns in, Power of the Doctor and stuff. We definitely see the more tender side of Ace. And I think it's interesting as well because, like I mentioned to you, I recently spoke to Katie Manning. You're both very standing on business type companions. You're both very, self-confident ones when, obviously we've seen a lot of characters in the show. You two are definitely very, self-assured and things.
There's no nonsense about Ace. She doesn't suffer fools gladly, and she beats up a Dalek with a baseball bat, and now twice in Power of the Doctor. Um,
Yeah,
Takes out
no,
Cybermen with her catapult. So, what more could you want?
no, it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, if we're gonna scale back, when you first went for the role in Doctor Who, what was it that drew you to it? Obviously, the show had been around for a while already, but was it that legacy, or was there something else that you saw in the show that you wanted to take part
Well, you say that as though we have a choice in the matter.
in?
As though, and it is funny because until you get to be a Hollywood A-lister, really, or even a sort of very, very established and very well-known actor over here, you don't get to choose your roles. Certainly not when you're starting out. I mean, I started out in children's theatre, which I loved and I think is incredibly valuable in touring around in a van, putting the set up in schools. And then I graduated on to doing other roles, and then in I was in a musical, back row of the chorus in Fiddler on the Roof with Topol, who did the role in the film. When my agent said, "Oh, I've put you up for," that's the thing, your agent puts you up for masses and masses of roles, and you sometimes get picked for an audition, sometimes you don't even get that. Sometimes you'll go to many, many auditions and get down to the last two and then don't get the role. This one was kind of wow, it fitted, the role fit what something that they saw in me, I think, and that's it. So there was really no choice about it, and especially for it was my first venture into TV work. I'd never even been into a studio before doing Doctor Who. So, in those days, remember we didn't have camera phones. We certainly couldn't have done this. We didn't even have mobiles. We didn't have computers. Nothing. Can you imagine a world with no laptops, no computers?
Crazy to think about now.
Absolutely nothing. Camera, the only camera I had was a click camera where you had a reel of film that you put in the back. You clicked your 36 photos and then you sent them off to the chemist uh, or in the post to be printed. And then they came back and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. That was the only possibility. So we had no experience of being filmed, of filming, of cameras. anything like that. I mean, I've just said that really to myself because it seems unbelievable somehow. But yeah, so I was really learning an awful lot on the job.
Yeah, no, it's so strange as well because you say that, me being an '04 baby, it's like I've never known anything but, sort of this world that we're living in now. And yeah, it is unbelievable when you put it like that. I just can't imagine. And I mean, yeah, so, obviously you went for the Doctor Who role, it's, very successful show. And then much later, you were approached with these audio dramas, and these specials and, these TV specials. What was it that made you want to keep coming back to the role? What made you say, I don't think I'm quite done with this yet?
You don't have the luxury of being able to turn work down most of the time. It's not, again, it's not a choice. But also, the people who were making those audios were fan friends of ours who are now the people who make the program. You know, we had one story written for us, Sylvester and me, by somebody called Mark Gatiss, who then went on to greater things, obviously. But he was a fan at the time, and I remember recording those audio adventures, the first ones that we did with a company called BBV Audio. They were in somebody's basement, with just a couple of microphones and the loo flushing in the background, and us sort of standing around just doing it ourselves. It was very much a kind of DIY element. And Sylvester and I had thought, hey, this is fun. That's really what kept us going, the fun of doing it, and also the fact that the fans, there was nothing for the fans during this hiatus. So there was an element of like, well, yeah, let's do it for that. But really, somebody says, oh, here's some money to have some fun. What are you going to say?
You wouldn't
Oh,
turn that down,
no,
would you?
no, don't really want that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I could totally see the appeal. It's like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, I think, especially when you're working in that world with Doctor Who as well, how that just brings so much fun to it. But again, it's like it didn't end with the audios. Obviously, things like Tales of the TARDIS, Power of the Doctor, you did get, on screen reunited with Sylvester. So what was it like sort of reuniting with him and bringing that back to the screen?
It was brilliant, but it was not new because we've done the audios ever since. So, and conventions, of course. So we see each other all the time. It didn't feel like that much different. I think what was wonderful was actually being on screen together again. That was really incredible. And the power of the Doctor for me was like. I think it was a very emotional moment when my agent called me and said they're doing an availability check on you, just out of the blue. I finished that call and I burst into tears because it was the call that I never realised until that point that I'd been waiting for. To be back on screen as Ace really was very important to me. And working with Janet Fielding was wonderful as well because we knew each other slightly from having seen each other at conventions and doing panels together. But really, we didn't really know each other, and then we really got to know each other very well during that time. And Gemma Coleman as well. That was lovely. The three of us became quite a little trio, sitting there
Oh.
having our teas together while we were waiting for shots to be set up and chatting away. It was really lovely, great
No,
experience.
it is. It's cute. It's cute because, I imagine that only people that have really been in that position where, because again, it's such a unique position to be a Doctor Who companion or, just a generally big character. So yeah, I can imagine there's a sense of camaraderie between you all, when you finally get to meet. It's like, I was you once, and you were me once. It's like that's gotta be so incredible.
Yes, absolutely. It was the same when we met Jodie and Mandit for the first time because they came bouncing onto the set and were so welcoming and lovely. And their first questions to us was, "Tell us all about these conventions. We want to know about the conventions." So it's like passing on the information to a new generation. It was great fun.
Yeah, I mean, how do you? I mean, obviously, you've clearly got such a love for them, but what do you think to the conventions? Just being able to meet fans and also reunite with people you've worked with. That's got to be so cool. I mean, it's cool for us fans going to them. I can't imagine what it's like to actually be a panelist.
It's amazing. I mean, I've literally a couple of days ago just got back from the States where we went on a sci-fi cruise, which is amazing. We
Wow.
we there was me, Sylvester, Nicola Bryant, Carol Ann Ford, and Fraser Hines, and we boarded a ship with 1,000 people or something, but 20 or so of whom were Doctor Who fans as well. And you get to hang out on a cruise. We have dinner together every night. We went on a James Bond tour in Nassau in the Bahamas together. We kind of, just it was a real chance to sort of unwind together and be together. There was me, Nicola, and her partner Nev. We spent the afternoon just sunbathing and reading together on deck at one point. It's that was great. And then we got back to Baltimore last Friday, got in a coach, went to Washington DC, and did this huge convention called Awesome Con, with something like 60,000 people came to that one. Did a panel in front of tons of people on the Friday, and then had the Saturday and Sunday. Flew home, and here we are. So yeah, it's to get the chance to travel the world and to be with your favorite people, who it's like a little family, sort of little funny kind of raggle-taggle family of Doctor Who people. It's great fun.
Oh my goodness. No, that sounds so unique as well. I'm still kind of hung up on this cruise concept, That sounds like possibly one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life. I can't actually imagine what that's got to be like. So, look, it's like Doctor Who isn't the only thing you've done in your career, but I am curious, do you have a favorite type of character that you would like to enact? And is there sort of any particular types of characters that you go for when looking for new roles?
Not really. I do lots of voiceovers, and those are very different characters because obviously I'm changing my voice to suit the role. So everything from Mrs. Rabbit and Flopsy and Mopsy and Peter Rabbit to Dennis the Menace to Treefoo Tom to all those different characters. And then I suppose on TV, things like Melvin and Maureen's musicograms, I played this character called Maureen, who's very over the top. And I don't know, there's no particular role. Basically, as I say again, it's not a choice. Somebody comes to me, says, "Do you want to play this?" I look at it and think, yeah, okay, great. It's some work.
Mm,
Beggars can't
yeah.
be choosers in this game.
No, of course, if you see something that you're suited to, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? So,
Mm.
I mean, across this time that you've spent in this industry, do you have any particular favorite anecdotes maybe that you've picked up, something that's happened and you've thought that couldn't have happened to anyone else?
Well, I suppose it's all the experiences, the crazy experiences of these conventions, really, and I think maybe the first time I saw a little figure of myself was quite extraordinary. Uh, the fact that if you told me when I was a little girl that there'd be a little doll of me, that's very strange.
Mm,
Also, being really good friends with people like Katie Manning, one of my best friends. Again, if you'd sat me down and said, "Oh, see that Joe on Doctor Who, Joe Grant, she'll be one of your best friends one day." I mean, it sort of doesn't really compute, does it?
no, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, Joe. Oh, it's like Katie is just incredible. And it's funny you mentioned that action figure as well, because I'm fairly sure I've got it like just on that shelf over there somewhere. It's like I've had my ace a while now. But yeah, so I mean, what advice have you got for students that want to break into this big scary industry? I know there's no rule book or anything, but any sort of first steps that you think should, are worth taking?
I would say put yourself in front of as many people as possible. Get as much experience as you can. Amateur, at college, do everything, be in everything, experiment with different parts, never say no to a role, and really kind of work on having that conviction that you can do it. That working on your sort of resilience and the strength of of yourself is really important as well to keep yourself buoyant. Um, Somebody told me recently that there are, I think, in the world of baseball, and sporting is quite a good analogy for life in a way. In the world of baseball, apparently 80% of the time, baseball players are failing. You know, they're failing to hit the ball, they're failing to get a strike, they're failing to get a home run. In fact, if you succeed only 30% of the time. So when you're failing 70% of the time, you get into the Hall of Fame. So I would say make friends with failure as well. Don't add significance to failure because you're going to go up for parts. You're going to fail and fail and fail and fail. And there'll be this one part that you get and the 100th time you go. But just keep going and don't make it mean anything when you don't get a part.
That's strong advice as far as failure, because that is such a, I don't know, it can be a very difficult thing to face, but I think you're right. Everything at the end of the day, it all happens for a reason, right? It's like someone will get that part, but there might be a different one for you just round the corner. And yeah, I mean, as far as getting parts as well, how do you face nerves when it comes to going to auditions as well? Do you have a process for that or anything that you can advise?
Oh, I get horribly nervous and I get terribly nervous as well when I'm, going on a set or it's different with audio. It's different with, I think because I'm familiar with it.
Hmm.
Again, it's make friends with your nerves. It's just like that's what's going on with your body. You're never going to conquer that. There's not a way of right. Oh, I'm going to make myself not nervous. That makes it worse in a way. So going for auditions or any kind of thing where you're nervous, you know, I think noticing where you're nervous. Like I know for myself, my legs shake when I'm nervous, and I get this sort of feeling of butterflies in my stomach or, churning or whatever. And then it's just like, well, that's all going on, but this is a body, it's not who I really am. This is just it's all happening. Let it happen. Because if you try and stop it, it'll get worse.
No, absolutely. It is because I think as well, it just means you care, right? It's like you wouldn't be nervous if you were going in without any passion. It's like it's just an
Exactly.
indicator, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, are there any particular performers or actors that you looked up to growing up? And, what traits have you sort of taken from their methods as actors?
Oh goodness. I didn't really have any role models apart from Scott Tracy from Thunderbirds, but then that's a bit weird because I would be acting like this if I
That is an obscure one.
yeah, it's funny. I really just think that I don't know, even when I was very young, I would just be able to get into the character. I've got photographs of me when I was very small, about five or so, being Cinderella, sweeping in the garage. I used to get all the neighborhood children together to do plays and tell
Oh,
them what to
wow.
do. And I can see from this conviction in my face, I'm totally just absorbed in the character. I mean, later, like when I did Doctor Who, I was lucky to work with such incredible people, Sylvia Sims and Sheila Hancock and Dinsdale Landon and Frank Windsor and T.P. McKenna. I mean, the list is endless. Simon Williams, and I definitely watched them to see what what was happening. But really, I don't know. I've just always, for me, it's like playing, acting.
Mm.
I'm I'm I am this character, and I seem to just be able to inhabit the character. Mm.
I mean, that's amazing. At the end of the day, you got to be your own role model. It's like if you're not doing the things that you love, if you're not setting a standard for yourself, you're doing something wrong. So, no, I think that's great. And I mean, yeah, so just in general, what do you think the challenges are of being an actor? What sort of what things do you think you generally have to face up to, and how would you overcome those things?
Long days,
Mm.
stamina, getting tired, being on time, very important. Because if you're keeping people waiting, then they're going to get cross with you and they're not going to use you again.
Mm.
Learning lines. My brain is definitely not as good as learning lines as it used to be. That's a real struggle nowadays. But just doing the slog of learning the lines. Um, what else? Yeah, self-belief, I think, as I said before, working on that, not being knocked by other people's opinions of you, not believing what you read in the papers about yourself. If you get to that, if you're lucky enough to get to that point, taking on other people's opinions of you, but not as the truth, just going, oh, well, that's an interesting opinion. I'll look at that
Mm.
and see. Working with a director, however difficult they may be, realizing that they're under pressure as well, and being nice to people, being kind.
Yeah, I imagine it can be, all these things going on, just remaining that humility and sort of, yeah, I imagine that has got to be tricky, but also, at the end of the day, if you're a good person at heart, it's like, it comes, doesn't it? It's like it's not gonna leave you. But yeah, so just as well, I am curious for your take as well. What do you think is making it at the moment in film and TV? What projects do you think are being successful, and why do you think that is? Why do you think people are drawn to certain things?
Golly. Well, at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's always uncertainty, but it seems to be a bit more close to home these days, um, with wars and aggression and I think the most important thing is to look after yourself and the people you love and make sure that you're not getting, that you're getting the help that you need for yourself. I would say in terms of watching what we watch in those sorts of times, it tends to be kind of quite nostalgic things, I think. Things that to make us feel better, to feel happy. I think period drama is always does well in world crisis. We've been through this before. We'll go through it again.
Yeah.
I tend not to watch. I don't like watching horror or anything with too much violence. There's enough of that in the world, I feel. Um, Especially, there's a very good friend of mine called Doone McKeekan, who I was at university with. She's a comedian, and she and her daughter have a test, and they watch stuff, and then as soon as there's any violence to women, or they just turn it off. It's not worth watching something that is not goes along that doesn't go along with your values, really.
True, and as well, it's like there's enough of that, unfortunately, in the real world. It's like why put yourself through it on the screen if it's like it's happening around us. No, absolutely, yeah, that's a really good point to make. And yeah, so I mean, just as well, I'm curious about this question because I feel like you've probably already decided what this role is for you. So I was gonna say if you could pick any role out of the sky, what is one that you would really love to take on? Maybe I'm wrong, but from how passionately you've spoken, I wouldn't be surprised if you've already had it and it's ace.
I think you're right. I mean, there's so many facets to Ace's character. I watch TV and I don't see many roles that I could play on TV. Maybe there's something that somebody could write for me. I watched Riot Women recently. That was fantastic. And I'd be very happy to take on a completely different role. But I think my favorite role so far, yes, has definitely been Ace because she's made such a difference to people as well.
No, and as well, I think you've carried that difference that she's made to people through because you did that book as well about her jacket, and that had so many contributors. That was for charity. It's like, and that breathes ace. I think like you said, it's like what part of you is an ace and what part of ace is in you. It's like I think just that humanity and that kindness and that care that really is what shines through for that character, especially through yourself.
Thank you. Yes, I'm working on another Ace jacket book actually, the part two,
Oh,
which is
fantastic.
it's the history of the jacket. It's very, very detailed. We've got a wonderful fan called David Noble, and he's been researching the jacket since 1987. So we're using all his research and to come up with not the definitive book, because I don't think there ever will be, but he's discovered loads of interesting facts about the jacket, and the badges and everything. So I'm writing my bits. And then, yeah, I think now it's the what difference can I make with this role? How happy am I going to make people? How satisfied? Um, there's my podcast as well, which I started just before Christmas. And I mean, I'm playing myself in that, but yeah, you could put Ace in brackets afterwards if we had the license, I guess. Um, and again, I'm doing that, not for the money, but to give a platform to other people who are working on it with me, and people seem to really enjoy it. So that's great too.
Yeah, no, it is. It's awesome. I mean, Doctor Who's got one of the best communities out there, I think. And, it's thanks to that community as well that we've recently got two, brand new episodes recovered that were lost for so long. I assume you've heard. I mean, how do you feel about that? That's so exciting, right?
That is so exciting. Well, I did one of my interviews on the podcast with one of the guys who's been involved in finding that and in bringing it out to the to all of us. So I have known about it for a while, but I'm just absolutely thrilled. I'm thrilled for Peter Purvis and the people who are in it, and we've got lots of new things to talk about, and yeah, I just think it's like a detective story, isn't it? Because
Oh, yeah.
these old stories are invaluable because they inform so much of what came next. So the more we can find, the merrier. So if anyone else knows of any, then please come forward with them, because it's just wonderful to. And now we've got the technology to disseminate them very quickly, and also the wonderful work that the restoration team do. That's amazing as well. It means that they can be accessible to everybody, which I think is great too.
Mm. Yeah, no, the effort and care that's put into making sure that Doctor Who's legacy is kept intact is incredible. And I mean, a project that I'm so excited for personally is the TV movie 4K re-release that we're getting. I mean, that I think my head exploded the day that they announced that, because that's got to be one of my favorite stories. In fact, on that topic, do you have a favorite story from Doctor Who? One of your own, or maybe one of the others?
Well, I don't remember that much from my childhood, but what I do remember is those horrible maggots on the hillside in the Green Death. So
Oh,
that's got to be one. And then from our era, from Sylvester's Doctor, I think for me, The Curse of Fenric was a fantastic story, which still could stand up today, I think. And then from the new series, perhaps, I know it's a cliche, but Blink was amazing, and it's a shame the Doctor's not in it very much, but I do think it's a wonderful story. Mm.
oh, Blink works so well. That really was quite a genius story. So, look, I've got one last big question for you. I asked Katie for her verdict on it as well, so I'm curious for yours. At the end of the reality war, who do you think it was that we saw? Do you think it was the Doctor, or do you think that was Rose Tyler?
Oh, who knows? Who
Hmm.
knows? But I think I don't think it was the Doctor. Um, I don't think, a Time Lord tends to have two hearts and a lot of other. I think it was a big tease as to something going on that we don't know about. And who knows what is in the mind of Russell T Davies? I'm sure he's got some incredible plan for something. Um, but we're never right. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's never, you can never really guess from the show. They always manage to do something that surprises in one way or another. So,
yeah. And isn't that
yeah,
great? We don't want to know, really, do we?
no, yeah, I mean it's fantastic. It's like no, I love that it keeps us guessing. But yeah, I mean, look, that is all I've got for you, Sophie. Thank you ever so much for coming on. It's been an amazing chat.
Oh, thank you too, as well. It's been really great to chat to you.